Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel, The Quality Analyst. Now today's session is where many beginners start to feel uncomfortable, and that's actually a good thing because what we are covering today is the Advanced XPath. So up until now, we have worked with attributes, text-based XPath and XPath functions like contains and starts with. But in real automation, the problems don't stop there. Okay, because in the real applications, table grow dynamically, elements repeat, some fields are disabled, some elements are hidden, and sometimes you don't know which one you need until runtime. Okay, so and that is exactly why XPath gives some advanced tools like indexing, the last function and the not function. Okay, so if you master this, you move from writing XPath to thinking like an automation engineer. So slow down, stay focused, and let's start. So let me ask you a very practical question. So what happens when multiple elements match with the same XPath? So for example, you have 5 input fields or 10 rows in the table or multiple buttons with a similar structure. So if you see on the page here, so let's say for example, we have tables here. Okay, we go down a bit. Okay, you see there are table which is having 5 row. Okay, uh, for example, we have another table having 3 rows. Okay, similarly, if you simply inspect this page and then if you just try to see how many input fields are there, so you see there are 34 input fields are there. Okay, and then again if you type in button here, you can see there are total 58 buttons are there on this page, right? So basically XPath will not magically know which one you want, right? So from the list of element, XPath will not be able to find out which one we exactly want, right? So this is where indexing comes in. Okay, so indexing allows us to say, I want the button, okay, the first button, okay, I want the second button, or I want the second input field, I want 100th input field, or I want last row of the table, right? So XPath indexing always starts from 1 and not 0. Okay, so like this is extremely important and often misunderstood. Okay, so for example, if you see something like this is input, and then I will just enclose this inside the brackets, and then I will index this. So what it means exactly? Okay, so if you simply use a double slash input, so it will give all the input tags. Okay, or if you use a double slash button, then if you see here, similarly we have used on this in the developer tools, and then we see total 58 numbers. Okay, so now we are including this input, this locator inside the brackets, and then we are passing this index. So this means the first matching input element. Okay, so if you make it as 2, then it means it is the second matching input element. So similarly, let's say there are 100, like 100 input element, then if you add the last 100 element, then again that will simply give you the 100 input tag, input element, right? So this is how it works. Okay, so now like let's talk about one of the most common real world problem, so which is tables. Okay, so tables are everywhere. So if you talk about there are transaction histories, user lists, order summaries, reports, and there are different reports, right? And most of the time you don't care about the first row. Okay, you care about the last row. Why? Because of the most recent entry which gets updated in the last row. Okay, so let's see some tables here. So we have 2 tables on our page. Okay, we'll go with the simple one here. Okay, let's select this row, and then you see there is a table tag. Inside table we have t body, and then we have table row. Okay, and then this is row 1. Okay, this is the table cell, and then you see inside that we have 2 more rows. So row 1, row 2, and row 3. Okay, so if you want the last row dynamically, you should never hard code it as an index. So let's say for example, if I go with hard coding it, simply what I will do is I will simply inside this particular, let's say, if let's consider this is the tag, we will write it, but for now let's consider this. And if you want to locate the last element, that is the third row, right? So what you can do is you can simply pass 3 here. But instead of hard coding this, because if we hard code this, even like if the entry latest entry gets updated, let's say there is row 4 gets added, it will still return the row 3 data for you. Okay, so that's why you should not or you should never hard code an index. Okay, so instead what you can do is you can simply pass here last function. So what it will do is it will give the input tag and the last input tag always. Okay, so similarly, like we will try to write the XPath for this table. Okay, and then we will see like how it works. Okay, so again, as it is the table tag, we will go with the table tag. Okay, let's slash double slash, again the relative XPath we are writing. So if you do double slash table, then you see there are two occurrences are there, right? So one of two. So first is this one and then the second one. So there are two tables. Okay, so again, for now maybe we can, what we can do is we can just ignore this, or maybe if you want to do it right now, we will check it. So let's say for example this is the table and now we want to locate the second table. So what you can do is you can enclose this locator inside the brackets and then simply pass the element here. So now you see, if you are passing the first index, you will see only first table gets highlighted and then you see only one occurrence, right? If you do second, then you will see the second table here. Okay, so similarly I will do what, like instead of hard coding it now, like now I want the last table on the page. So what I will do, I will simply use this last here. So what it will do is it will give you the last element. Now you see this table, the second table gets highlighted. Okay, and now we will go inside the tr. So again, like we can directly add double slash and then go inside tr. Once you do that, you see there are 3 rows in the table. And then if you want to locate the first row, then you can again enclose the particular all the like complete element or the locator inside the brackets, and then again you can simply use the indexing. So if you pass 1, it will give you the first row. If you pass second, it will give you the second row. If you pass the third row, it will give you the third row. But again, as the data will get updated frequently, let's say if you want to get the latest records, latest row, then definitely you should not hard code this as 3. You should pass it as last function here, and then it will give you the last row always. Okay, so this is how you use the last function. So if you simply hard code that by index, let's say for example if you hard code it by index, okay, so this will work only until a new row is added. Okay, and it will not fail, but definitely your data will be the older one. You will get the row 3 data always because you have hard coded that particular index in your locator. Okay, but if you simply use last here, then it will adapt the changes automatically and it will give you the last row always. Okay, so if there are 3 rows, it will pick the third row. If there are 100 row, it will like automatically pick the 100 row. That's why the last is not an optional knowledge, it's very essential. Okay, so this is about the last function. Now let's move to a very powerful and slightly tricky concept, that is the not function. So let me just copy this and then I will keep it here. Okay, so this is how we write using the last function. Okay, so now let's talk about not. Okay, so not allows you to exclude some elements. Okay, so instead of saying give me elements that have something, okay, you say give me elements that do not have something. Okay, so this is extremely useful when dealing with enabled or disabled case. So if you see there are like fields which are disabled here and which are enabled also, like there are multiple enabled fields, but you see there are some disabled field as well, right? So like enabled versus disabled fields. Then there are some visible versus hidden elements, active versus inactive elements. Okay, so this works with all such cases. Okay, so consider this like this field for now, or maybe we also have some other enabled or disabled fields also on this page. Let's take those into consideration now. Yeah, you see there are disabled and enabled fields, right? So some are disabled and some are enabled. Okay, so if you want to locate only enabled inputs, okay, so what you can do is you can simply, again, let me first inspect it. So this is enabled, right? So what I can do is I can simply use the input tag here, because again it will return multiple elements, because definitely it will have multiple elements which are enabled. Okay, so now what I will do is I will just use the input tag. So /input, again a relative tag, and then what I can do is I can just I want the enabled elements, right? So what I will do is I will just use a not function, and inside not function I can pass disabled here. Okay, and now you see there are total 32 occurrences of enabled cases. Not disabled means enabled cases. So you see there are 32 input fields which are enabled. So if you want to see, let me cut it, and then if you see input, there are total 34 fields are there on this page which are having input tags. But now out of this 34, if you use this not disabled, that means it will give you the enabled element. These are 32. So definitely there are two elements which are disabled ones. So if you want to check those, you can simply remove this not from this here, and then it will give you the disabled fields. You see disabled fields are highlighted here. Okay, so like this is how we can find out the enabled and disabled cases. Okay, so like this is far cleaner than checking styles, classes, or any JavaScript states. Okay, so this XPath is readable, maintainable, and of course it's stable. So this also works with the hidden elements. Okay, so the element, like hidden elements are the element might exist in the DOM but not visible on the page, right? So for example, model dialog, some error messages, or some lazy loaded content. Okay, so in such cases also this will work. And if you want to know like how hidden elements we can see, like often these hidden elements have the attributes or styling such as display :none, or there are some specific attributes. Okay, so again for hidden elements also using not allows you to say ignore elements that are hidden and focus only on the usable UI elements. Okay, so now like in real projects you rarely use these concepts alone. So now we have used not as well as the last function in this session, but now again we can combine these two as well. Okay, so let's say for example, if you want like we have already seen like for locating the table. So along with the disabled, we can also find out the elements with the last, right? So let's say for example, like now I will just use enabled one here, not disabled, so that then I will get the 32 elements. And then again out of this 32, let's say for example if I want the last element, right? So then you can simply pass the index. Definitely you can pass it as 32. Sorry, okay, yeah, so I need to enclose this in a bracket first, because in that way indexing will work. So if you want the 32nd element, then you see the 32nd element, and if you do it same with the help of last, then you will also see the same element. Okay, so this is way how we can combine not and the last function, and not only these functions, we can also combine multiple other functions in the same like locator. Okay, so let's wrap this up. Indexing helps when elements repeat. Last function helps when content grows dynamically. Not function helps when exclusion matters. So if you can think in terms of what do I want, what do I want to ignore, XPath becomes logical and not scary. Okay, so if this session has helped you, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone learning Selenium. So in the next tutorial, we will cover XPath additional functions such as normalize space, and that's where XPath truly becomes very powerful. So see you in the next class.